Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves. What we do here is look at a specific market event and try to identify who gains and who loses based on the detailed analysis you've shared with us.
Yeah, today we're focusing on a pretty clear corporate optimization effort. It's the recent announcement from Starbucks about their $1 billion restructuring plan. They're aiming to improve efficiency, improve performance.
Okay, let's get the basics down first. So this involves about 900 non-retail layoffs, right?
That's right.
And a planned reduction in their North American store count by about 1%. Now, 1% might not sound like a huge number, but for Starbucks, that's actually quite a few locations closing.
It really is. And management's been clear they're targeting the underperforming stores,
Yeah.
the ones that just aren't meeting the financial goals they set.
Okay.
But it's important to see this isn't only about cuts. It's part of a bigger turnaround idea, and that includes plans for renovating over 1,000 of their successful stores, so upgrading the customer experience there.
Right. So when a major player like Starbucks closes units, it definitely creates a vacuum, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
People's daily routines, especially for commuters, they get disrupted immediately. So let's jump into that first group, the winners. Who's positioned to pick up that displaced customer traffic? Maybe we start with the quick service restaurants, the QSRs.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. If your usual convenient Starbucks stop disappears, you're probably not going to search for some new fancy cafe way out of your way.
No, you need something fast.
You look for the next quickest, most efficient option on your commute. That's just how it works.
And when you talk about absorbing that kind of immediate volume, the analysis seems to point pretty strongly towards McDonald's, ticker MCD. Why are they seen as this sort of front runner here?
Well, it's more than just price, although that's part of it. McDonald's has actually put a lot of effort, over the past decade into improving their breakfast menu and their coffee quality.
They really have.
And they already have the speed, the drive-through setup that commuters want. It's just a friction-free experience. So they seem like the natural place for many of those commuters to go, looking for a reliable alternative to that Starbucks that's now gone.
Okay, but, the typical Starbucks customer, maybe they're looking for something a bit higher quality than the standard QSR coffee. Are we sure they'll all just switch to McDonald's? Or might some look for something maybe regionally strong with more of a coffee focus?
That's a fair point. And that's where Restaurant Brands comes in, ticker TUSR.
Okay.
Now, this is the company that owns both Tim Hortons and Burger King. Tim Hortons especially could do quite well in markets where coffee is really central. Think the Northeast U.S., Canada, where they already have a lot of stores.
Right. Tim's has that dedicated coffee feel.
Exactly. It's recognizable. It's coffee-focused. It could be a good bridge for someone who used to go to Starbucks.
And Burger King, I mean, you don't usually think of them first for coffee.
No, probably not. But they could still see some benefit. Just, incremental breakfast demand. If someone's pulling into that shopping center anyway because the Starbucks isn't there, maybe they grab breakfast at BK instead.
Ah, the proximity benefit makes sense.
That's it.
Okay, so that covers the folks who still buy coffee out. But closing 1% of stores, that means less convenience for a lot of people. Some might just say, you know what, maybe I'll just brew at home more often. Who wins when people start stocking their pantry instead of hitting the drive-thru?
Yeah, this is that budget trade-down category you mentioned. When the convenient Starbucks is there, the value of that daily premium purchase goes down a bit.
Right.
People might realize, hey, I can get something almost as quick at home, and it costs way less per cup. So they start, pantry loading, as the industry calls it.
So for the single-serve crowd, the pod users, who benefits most there? The ones who want convenience, but maybe not the daily cafe price tag.
Well, that leads us straight to winner number 3. Keurig Dr Pepper, ticker KDP.
Ah, Keurig. Makes sense.
Yeah, single-serve brewers, the K-cups, all that. They're likely to see a nice pickup. Keurig gives you that speed, that customization, kind of like the cafe experience, but run in your kitchen counter. They're really set up to attract consumers who put convenience first.
And what about people who are more about, say, value or brewing a whole pot for the family, the more traditional coffee drinkers?
Okay, so that brings us to J.M. Smucker, ticker 7JM.
Smucker. Okay.
Yeah, think about their big retail coffee brands, Folgers, for one. And they also have the license for Dunkin' retail coffee you buy in the supermarket.
Right.
Those brands are really well positioned for this pantry loading trend. As households buy less coffee out and stock up more at home, you'd expect to see more daily use, more supermarket sales for these big mainstream brands.
Okay, so we've covered QSRs, we've covered home brewing. There's one more winner category you identified. Locations that offer quick grab-and-go service but aren't, traditional fast food chains. You mean convenience stores, C-stores.
Exactly. C-stores. They often get overlooked, but they capture a lot of that commuter demand, especially in the morning.
Because they're just there, on the route.
Proximity is absolutely key in that morning rush. C-stores are usually pretty smart about placing themselves on high-traffic roads, so they grab that immediate demand, particularly the ones located near a Starbucks that just closed.
So which C-store operators are maybe best positioned to capitalize here?
Well, one example is Casey's, ticker CSEY.
Casey's, okay. Midwest primarily.
Yeah, they've really worked on their prepared food and their coffee programs over the years. They have a strong presence, especially in smaller towns, mid-sized towns across the Midwest. In some places, they might become the main stop for drivers who used to rely on the local Starbucks.
And is there another example maybe focusing more on the gas station side of things? Fuel and coffee.
Sure. Look at Murphy USA, ticker BMUSA.
Murphy, right. Often near Walmarts.
Often, yeah. Their setup, the coffee right there by the pumps, the C-store beverages, it's perfectly positioned to pick up that commuter overflow. We call it forecourt coffee, right in front of the store where you fuel up. Quick in, quick out. Minimizes friction. Very attractive for someone in a hurry in the morning.
Okay, so that's 6 winners, identified companies ready to absorb traffic, whether it's at the drive-thru, from the grocery aisle, or at the gas pump. Now, we need to flip the coin. Look at the other side. Where does this Starbucks restructuring create pressure? It's not just about who lost the coffee sale, is it? It's about businesses that kind of relied on Starbucks being there.
That's exactly right. The effects go beyond just coffee sales. When you look closely, you see pressure on real estate partners and also on the supply chain folks, the logistics companies that were set up for that larger, stable Starbucks network.
Let's start with the retail REITs, the real estate investment trusts. I mean, my first thought wouldn't necessarily be the landlord unless they owned that specific building that closed. How does it affect others?
Well, think of Starbucks units as reliable foot traffic generators. Even though the store itself might be small, people pop in frequently, sometimes multiple times a day.
Sure.
That brings people into the shopping center. And that foot traffic leads to what's called spillover spend. People grabbing coffee might then go to the dry cleaner next door, or the phone store, or a small shop.
Oh, okay.
When that steady Starbucks traffic disappears, it impacts those neighboring businesses. And that, in turn, makes the whole shopping center potentially less valuable to the landlord.
So which landlords might feel this more directly?
Well, one example is Kimco Realty, ticker Kim. They focus a lot on grocery-anchored centers and open-air plazas. Losing that Starbucks footfall can just reduce the overall buzz of the center, maybe making it harder to lease out those other small shop spaces at good rates.
Okay, Kimco. And is there another big REIT with similar exposure?
Yeah, look at Regency centers. Ticker WEG, their bread and butter is neighborhood centers.
Right.
So for them, there's a risk to just the general amount of people walking around, and particularly to the spending in those smaller complementary shops that often benefit from being near a busy Starbucks, especially near the specific units that are closing. It could affect what we call co-tenancy value.
Got it. Okay, moving from landlords to logistics. The companies delivering the goods, milk, pastries, cups, napkins, everything. The food service distributors. This seems like a more straightforward volume issue, right? Fewer stores means fewer deliveries?
It is, largely, but it's maybe a bit more nuanced. It's definitely near-term softness in volume because stores are closing or being renovated. But it also hits their operational efficiency, things like route density and steady turns.
Okay, let's break those down for anyone not in supply chain. Why does losing just a few stops on a delivery route actually cause, a headache for these massive distributors?
Sure. So route density is basically how many delivery points you have tacked closely together on one route. Distributors spend a lot of time optimizing these routes to be super efficient.
Makes sense.
If you lose even a few busy Starbucks locations on that route, it messes up the optimization. The truck still has to drive a similar distance maybe,
Yeah.
but with fewer stops, making each remaining delivery effectively more expensive, it pushes up the cost per delivery.
Okay, so which big distributors might feel that kind of pinch?
Well, Cisco, for one, ticker CSYY, they'll obviously have fewer deliveries going to the stores that are closing or even those under renovation temporarily.
Yeah.
That leads to slower SKU turns, meaning the products aren't selling through and needing replenishment as quickly.
Right.
And it puts a drag on that route efficiency until they can kind of rebalance their network.
And Cisco's main competitor, U.S. Foods. Same boat.
Pretty much the same story for U.S. Foods, ticker USFD. They face very similar headwinds. Fewer cases being ordered, lower route density. These guys rely on high-volume, frequent deliveries to big chains like Starbucks, so reducing the number of active stores creates an immediate drag on their operations until things stabilize.
Okay, so landlords, distributors. Finally, you mentioned specialized suppliers. The companies selling Starbucks, everything from their specific coffee blends to the fancy espresso machines and blenders.
Yeah, that smaller store count, maybe simplified operations in some places, that immediately puts pressure on suppliers who are really closely tied to Starbucks' operational scale and, their expansion plans.
Can you give us a name on the supplier side, maybe focusing on the coffee itself?
Sure, loser number 5 could be Farmer Bros, ticker Farm.
Farmer Bros. Okay.
They do branded coffee, but also contract manufacturing, including for clients like Starbucks, potentially. So fewer active stores just means less product flowing through their system, pressuring those sales tied to Starbucks' footprint.
And on the equipment side, I mean, you mentioned $1 billion for renovations, which sounds good for equipment suppliers, but the store closures must counteract that somewhat.
That's the dynamic, yeah. So take Middleby, ticker MIADD. They supply a lot of kitchen and beverage equipment. On the one hand, yes, the renovations are a positive for them, but on the other hand, they're getting fewer orders for equipment refreshes from the stores that are shutting down.
Okay.
And maybe, just maybe, the overall focus on rationalizing costs means even the remaining stores might delay some capital spending CapEx on new equipment for a bit while the company manages this transition. So a mixed bag near term for them.
Wow, okay. So we've mapped out 12 companies here, from competitors like McDonald's ready to grab customers, all the way to REITs like Kimco and equipment vendors like Middleby who feel the effects indirectly. It really shows how one decision by a major retailer can affect expected revenues and operations across a whole network of businesses.
It really does. And the takeaway for you, the listener, is to see that chain reaction. From the person choosing McDonald's, ticker MCD, or Tim Hortons, QSR, for their coffee now, all the way to the potential loss of foot traffic impacting a property owned by Kimco, Kim and Kim. These corporate decisions do create these movements across different market segments.
So here's a final thought for you to consider as we wrap up. How long do you think it actually takes for those distributors, like Cisco, SYY, and the equipment guys, like Middleby, MENDD, to kind of recover their volume or adjust their routes after stores close, compared to how quickly the competitors, like McDonald's, MCD, or Tim Hortons, QSR, can potentially absorb that displaced customer traffic? Something to think about.
Absolutely. And before we finish, we have to give this reminder. This discussion is based purely on the analysis and opinion of the author of the material provided. This is not financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy or sell any security. It is purely for informational purposes.
Thanks for tuning in to Breaking News to Trading Moves. We hope this has provided you with some clarity on this particular market movement.